Good morning and welcome to Esdebe and Keepit's ransomware protection webinar. My name is Jonathan Chubb. I'm director of Esdebe, and we're here to tell you about how Keepit can help you solve your ransomware problems. So as we go through the presentation, please feel free to ask your questions. We'll handle them as we go along. There aren't too many people today, but it's good to see a number of our clients have joined in, and people that we've been talking to about Keepit over the past few months. So welcome to the presentation. I hope you find it useful, and you'll be able to see how other people have benefited from Keepit and how Esdebe have helped bring Keepit to our clients and protect them from ransomware, which is a good place to be going forwards. So firstly, a little introduction to Esdebe for those who don't know. So Esdebe was established in 2001. We were based on a consultancy which delivered Veritas data protection and management solutions. We have a very customer first focus. Our clients are generally clients that buy from us year after year after year after year. We're based in Northampton at the Silverstone race circuit, and we deliver globally. So we've had clients as far as North America and South Africa and the Middle East, certainly, but definitely all over Europe. We tend to be sort of very South Coast based, but we certainly have a long reach. We work in the UK very much with public and private sector. So we have a wide range of clients, from finance to hospitals and healthcare, and production and manufacturing and education. So we span the user community. We've been a Keepit partner for nearly 3 years, for over 3 years actually. And for those who are interested and want to know how you pronounce our company name, it's really down to you. There are many ways you can say it, and we won't be offended if you choose to find a new way that we haven't heard so far. So enough about us. Let's find out a bit more about ransomware and how to recover rapidly if you get attacked. Stuart, over to you. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, that's better.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for the introduction. Thank you for inviting me, inviting Keepit to your web seminar. My name's Stuart Birch. I work for Keepit. I look after the commercial business here in the UK and Ireland. I'm based in the UK, not too far away from Jonathan, really. So we've got the same weather at the moment. Keepit provide SaaS to SaaS backup and recovery for key data and applications. So a little bit about us before we go forward. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about Keepit. We're going to look at what we're hearing in the market about ransomware today. It's obviously a very topical issue, and that's not going to change. We're going to show you and talk you through how you can use the Keepit tools and that one pane of glass to recover quickly from ransomware threats and attacks. And then we're going to go into a live demo of the system so you can see a little bit about us. So who are Keepit if you've never come across this before? So we are the market leading dedicated SaaS data protection provider. So we are born and native in the cloud, not on-premise, not hybrid. We are pure SaaS to SaaS for the key applications such as Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, Azure Active Directory, Salesforce, Google Workspace, and others. And that portfolio of products and services is growing rather than remaining stagnant. We were founded in 2007, got more than 2,000 customers across 46 countries, as you can see there on the left. And what that means is that we have millions of users protected. We are a Danish company, HQ'd in Denmark, in Copenhagen, but we are present in 19 countries. Now, specifically around our data centers, which we're very proud of. We have data centers in 6 regions. And what I mean by that is that we don't use public data centers. So our kit, our technology is hosted, it's our kit, is our technology is hosted in 6 locations. So those locations are UK, Germany, Denmark, Australia, US, and Canada. And again, our investment will keep growing that footprint around the world. And we do have people on the ground, as we say, in 19 countries. Those data centers are important because actually what we do is in each of those locations, we have 2 data centers. So 2 different locations geographically dispersed. So let's take the UK as an example. There are 2 data centers in the UK. There will be 2 in Denmark, 2 in Germany, etc. And in each of those data centers, we'll take and provide 2 backups of your data. So effectively giving you 4 copies of your backup across those 2 data centers in each location. So they are fully secured, encrypted. The data is immutable, and we'll talk a little bit about that. An automated daily backup. There's actually 2 incremental backups per day using our blockchain verified tech. And the speed and ease of search and recovery is unparalleled in this industry. So we're obviously quite proud about this. And then the last thing I'll draw upon, you can see at the bottom there, some of the certifications that are very relevant. And I'll pick on one. We have our own ISO 27001 certification for our data centers. We're very proud of that. Like some of our competitors, some of the other people in the backup space in the marketplace do rely on the underlying certification of the data center providers they're using. So for example, AWS or Microsoft Azure, and they rely on the certification of those providers. We don't, we have our own, it's in our own name because we take it very seriously, and that investment reflects that. So that's a little bit about Keepit and what we do. What are we seeing then in the ransomware space? So effectively, ransomware threats are steadily growing, and I think that was obvious even before what was going on in terms of the geopolitical situation in Ukraine. But arguably, the evidence points to that has grown even more widespread and more prevalent since that time, and I think that is quite a well recognized sort of situation. Obviously, this isn't a deep dive into ransomware and all about it, but fundamentally things like edge protection, data protection, identity protection, and so forth are clearly important. They are material issues or concerns, and I doubt that anyone listening to this would think otherwise. But in terms of ransomware threats and attacks, they're becoming more widespread. There are more threat actors out there now, some of them state sponsored, a lot of them not. There are more tools and availability of these tools for people to launch these attacks, and they're coming from more locations, so more places from around the world. And they're also increasing in severity, which is quite serious. So ransomware, in terms of grabbing hold of your data and not letting it go until you pay some money, is pretty well understood. But we're now seeing a rise in destructware, so far more severe in terms of what's going on out there. 1 in 3 organizations then report that they have actually been hit, which is interesting. So just the sheer volume of ransomware attacks is pretty serious. So 41% of organizations have been hit successfully by ransomware attacks, or unsuccessfully, depending on which side of the fence you were on, in the past 12 months. And some of you in the audience might be thinking, yeah, well, we're one of those organizations. But then 32, so we're a third of people, so 1 in 3 people that are listening to this webinar have been hit more than once. Now that's really interesting, and that's quite an uncomfortable scenario, I guess, uncomfortable conversation to have internally, up to your IT director or to your board of directors, or depending on which industry you work in, to the press perhaps. And I guess what that means is that success breeds success. Like if you have your house burgled, I'm talking about here in the UK, the police say the risk of you being burgled a second time or a third time actually goes up substantially, because they see it as a weakness and threat. So the need to take action on this has never been more serious. Paying the ransom, just, if this point needs stating again, let's state it again. Paying the ransom just isn't a great strategy. People do it. And that's typically because they've been caught off guard. They haven't been prepared. That's not a criticism. It is what it is. As an industry, we need to wake up to all of this and do the best we can. But what's interesting for me is that the amount of, the percentage of data that you actually get back, even after you do pay that ransom. So in that scenario where you've gone up to your finance director, you've gone up to your board of directors and said, look, we were unprepared for this. We've been hit. We need to get back up and running right now. I need this amount of cash to be released to pay the external threat actors. And then 51 to 75% of your data back. That's what most people get back. And that's a pretty unpalatable scenario. So we're here today to talk about giving you another option. The last bit about what's going on in the market here. As well as IT, I also have an interest in the insurance market. And I was fascinated to learn that some insurance companies now are no longer offering cyber risk insurance as a result of what's going on in the marketplace today. Now that's pretty serious. When the insurance companies and the underwriters within wake up to the fact that they can no longer underwrite that risk, things do have to change. What we are seeing, actually, even since we wrote these slides, is that some insurance companies now are demanding certain levels of technology and certain levels of technological solution to be in place before they offer insurance. So the underwriters within the insurance companies are now affecting the kind of technology needs, your technology requirements out there. The success breeds success we mentioned just earlier in the ransomware and the hacker world. So once they've got one bit of success, they're going to go out and try it another 10 times, give them another 2 bits of success, they'll try another 20 times, etc., and it goes up exponentially. So what we're in is an arms race between attack and defense. So this is a war that's ongoing, will never stop. So whether we recognize it or not, each of us now is in an arms race in terms of protecting against external threat actors. So if we take a vendor like Microsoft and ask, what do we do, Microsoft, to recover from a ransomware attack? And this is a screenshot from their own website. So they have advice and they have a process in place. And I want you to look at the very first item on their list. So this is Microsoft advice to you. Verify your backups. And I think there are 3 interesting points about this. Firstly, it's point number 1, verify your backups. And they're assuming that you've got backups. And then point number 2 is that they're saying verify your backups. So that's your backup, not Microsoft's backup. Again, if it needs stating within the marketplace, Microsoft and other vendors are not going to provide backup for your SaaS-based data. If you need to check that, then check your Microsoft service agreement or the relevant service agreement with your vendor of choice. They don't provide backup. And then the third point is, why are they saying for step number 1, verify your backups? Why might that be? Well, Microsoft, of course, realized that if an external threat actor has compromised your system for ransomware, then the first thing they're going to try and do is if they can see your backup data, they'll take control of that before they take control of your production data, so that you can't then use your backups, which is one of the reasons, of course, where Keepit provides a true air-gapped solution to absolutely remove that risk. So that's just a little bit about the marketplace and where we are today. As Jonathan says, if you've got any questions, then either go to the end or put them in the chat and we'll try and respond to those. So moving on, what can Keepit do to actually help you to recover from this? So we provide the only cloud independent, I'm just reading it here, immutable blockchain verified. So what does this mean? So cloud independent, if you remember, we said that there we have our own data centers, our own data center kit. We provide immutable data. So once your backups are in with Keepit on our system, that data is immutable. It's tamper-proof. It is undeletable. So and it's permanent. So what does that mean for you? Well, it means that it's safe. Once it's in, you know that data is safe. Ransomware actors, external threat actors, hackers, they are not going to be able to get into that data. So even if there are faults within, for example, Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services, these are great companies, don't get me wrong, but things do happen. We all know that, and we all, you don't have to read too many IT press articles to understand that sometimes there are issues. Even if there are, your Keepit immutable data is going to be available for you. Now, we provide blockchain verification. And the reason I mention that, as I said, this isn't a technical deep dive, but there are two good reasons for me to mention this. Firstly, that's what gives us this data immutability. So it's inherently safe and secure, but it's also inherently light on storage, which means it's really quick because everything we do is on hot storage, no cold storage, no warm or lukewarm storage. So the search and recovery elements of our system is incredibly quick, and it's incredibly easy. And that allows our system not only to be used as a great sort of DR type recovery situation from a ransomware attack, but also on a more day-to-day basis in terms of quick search and recovery of individual items, individual users' data, individual files and folders, SharePoint sites, etc., etc. So we are protecting Azure Active Directory, which sometimes the Active Directory structure is as important as the data within your SharePoint or whatever. Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Microsoft Teams, Google Workspace, Salesforce Dynamics, and more. A little bit about if you ask the marketplace about Keepit, that's our customers and the analysts who are out there looking at this on a day-to-day basis. This is kind of what you'll find. So you've got a quote here from the Lasselsberger group, talking very nicely about Keepit. Down in the bottom left, the trust radius, Captera, etc., etc. We love this because this is what actually these are reviews from our customers, and as you see, anything above 4.5 is going to be good, so we feel pretty good about that. If you ask Gartner and Forrester and ESG, they say very nice things about us, which is very nice. Isn't that the kind of company that you want to work with as a partner? And I think we Forrester do put us as a top right and quadrant for their backup as a service. So that's a little bit about Keepit, but what I wanted to do was jump into a demonstration. Now, a lot of people might say that this is a foolhardy thing to do, doing for a live demo during a web seminar, but we're going to go for it. We're going to roll the dice. It should be fine. So, Jonathan, I'm going to stop sharing for a bit, whilst I just set this up properly.
That's fine, Stuart. So just one question that popped up whilst you were talking there was one of the other cloud backup vendors had an issue recently where they lost a lot of their clients' data. What's to stop that being the same case with Keepit? Would you like to just respond to that one whilst we're just lining up the demonstration?
Yeah, absolutely. So effectively, there are a lot of things we do that mean that that's just not going to happen. So once your backup is in to Keepit, it is true immutable data. So that backup is in, and it cannot be tampered with. So there is no way for a hacker, for example, or any kind of external threat actor to gain access to our systems and alter that data, to recover it, to tamper with it, to delete it, or anything like that. And this is sort of backed up by our blockchain verified technology, which is basically a Merkle tree architecture. We also provide, as we mentioned, so let's just take the UK region as another example, as we mentioned before, where we actually provide, there are 2 data centers and 2 copies on each. So even in a sort of a weird freak kind of hardware and firmware systems error, we do have 2 copies in each of those data centers. So 2 full backups in each of those data centers, and another 2 in another data center. So let's say there's a a sort of a flood or an earthquake or something serious, and takes one data center out. We do obviously plan for that sort of dual redundancy in our data centers. We still have the 2 backups in the other data center from which to pull from.
Yeah, I think in the case that we're being asked about, actually, it wasn't it wasn't a problem with an actor getting in from the outside. It's actually an administrative issue managing the metadata from within. And so it's a slightly different scenario, but either way, I think that they suffered in that case because the one version they were relying on of their metadata got administratively and permanently deleted. And if you've got 4 copies of it, at least within one data region, that's not going to be an issue. So
yeah, absolutely. And I would point to the inherent security of the underlying architecture of blockchain, which is of course why things like cryptocurrency are based on that architecture. It's for the inherent security of that. But even if there is something that I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where this would happen, but even if there is some sort of corruption in one of our backups, then we have another 3 to work from. So we do have that sort of quadruple redundancy, and that's on that basis, and dual redundancy in terms of geographical location of data center in each region.
Excellent, thank you, Stuart.
Yeah,
so
it's almost a statistical kind of it's statistically close to 0 effectively.
So on with the demonstration.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
So I'm presuming that everyone can now see that what this is our live demo environment, which sits on our real data centers. So it basically is our backup environment. And what you've got here, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail here, but the first thing I think you'll notice is that this is a very modern web-based UI. This sort of one pane of glass, which shows you everything you need to know about your backup environment and how to use it. And the reason I mention that is because if you think of a lot of vendors, I guess we don't have the disadvantage of coming from a background of on-premise backup or hybrid backup. This was built purely born and living in the cloud native, and that's why it looks so modern, and that's why it's so intuitive effectively, which is great for us. So for ease, what we've done in each of our products is we've got one connector here, and in reality you might have several connectors for multiple products. So I'm just going to look as an example at what's going on with the Microsoft 365 connector. So let's say there's a scenario, Jonathan, and for the audience, where tomorrow morning, worst case scenario, your phone starts ringing at 8 o'clock in the morning or earlier, and it's your IT director, or it's one of your users, or it's the PA of the CEO or whomever saying, what's going on? The system's down. We can't access anything. This looks bad. We need to be up and running as soon as possible. You need to find out what's going on. And rather than the answer being, gosh, yeah, I have no idea what's going on, let me look, the answer could be, okay, let's find out what's going on, but in parallel, let's go to our backups and make a restore so we can get our functionality, our business functionality up and running as quickly as possible, whilst we deal with the threat in parallel, and all our vendors, of course, that we're going to deal with. So if you were going to then go to our restore wizard to make a sort of a bulk recovery, if you like, very simple graphical display. There are 6 steps. What you want to do is to say, okay, we need to restore from our backup data pretty quickly. You can search by date here if you like. Say on Wednesday the 25th, we know that the data was good. You can even just use the slider if you like, but just for ease, we're going to say, okay, do you know what, Tuesday the 28th, that's when I know the data was good. We'll choose the evening one, click next. And what you would do is do these one at a time. So fundamentally, we want to get Exchange up and running first as a priority. Okay, I want to use all of the users because we want to get everyone up and running. I want the mail and the calendar and the contacts. We're not going to worry about tasks and in the archive right now because we just want to get everyone up and running as quickly as possible. It's worth just noting here that the reason that Adele Vance in this particular scenario is not selectable is because there has been a right to be forgotten label attached and placed over this particular user, and that is for GDPR compliance. So because they have an RTBF label placed on them in the system, that data can't be previewed, reviewed, or restored. Okay, so but everyone else, we absolutely want them to, let's get their Exchange up and running again. Okay, so we have a few options, but effectively for speed, I'm just going to say, right, let's get it in place. Let's get the duplicates. Let's get that back. And here we go. It'll give you a quick summary of what you do before you do it. And by the way, you could be on our on the phones to our support team at the same time. But this is something that effectively is very much a self-service thing. I won't press restore because it'll go away and do the job. But fundamentally, once you do, off it goes to restore. Now we typically get between 2 to 5 terabytes a day of transfer speed. So depending on how much data you've got within your Exchange, you can see how quick this is going to be. This isn't the old method, the old style of backup where, oh, we have to go back to a certain amount of time. Right, we're going back to the cold storage. We're going back to the tapes. We're going back to the NAS, etc. We're talking seconds and minutes, hours maximum. So depending on what kind of tolerance your business has for downtime and the desire for the immediacy of uptime, this is a very quick and simple action. And then you would literally go back, repeat the process for, okay, now let's pick the same day, Tuesday. Now I want to get Teams up and running. It's exactly the same process. And for Teams, that's really important to us because we lean on Teams heavily as an organization. So I'm just going to get everything back up and running. Here we go, same sort of procedure. You can see it's exactly the same. Quick summary, and away you go. So that can be happening to get your system, get your data back up and running almost immediately. So it's almost immediately. Even if for something like SharePoint, where let's say, for example, you're an organization that leans heavily on the data within SharePoint, you can prioritize on key bits of data. It doesn't have to be everything in one go, or you can just do everything in one go, let it run so that you just reduce that downtime. The other method here is that rather than going for that bulk restore, you can very simply navigate through the connector. So you can see here SharePoint users. So you might go to your SharePoint site. There might be a particular site or file or a library or a set of libraries that you're looking for. So it's this document page, and you might choose to just click on that and go and restore it from there. Or there might be something within that it's a very specific bit of content that you're looking for. I picked the wrong one there. Bit of content that you're looking for. You say, okay, yes, it's this file, it's this access policy. That's exactly the one that we're after. Go ahead and restore from that. You can even, if you choose, use our search function, which is very granular. And let's say, for example, there's I'm looking at just this. Let's search for Atlanta, anything with Atlanta in the title. We're going to include the subfolders within that search, and away you go. There are 4 emails that you can look at and preview that are basically emails about an Atlanta flight reservation. You do actually get a good preview that is graphically rich, although I've picked something that is not there's not a lot of graphics on there. And then from there you can choose to go ahead and download that, to restore that. If it's a document that is that you're using Microsoft version control in this M365 scenario, you can also search by the versions. You don't need to know exactly when that document was last updated. You can search by the version control. You could go old school and print it. But what's also potentially useful is that you can create a public link that you can, let's say for security, you're going to say, do you know what, I want that value to be 1 hour. That's going to be valid for 1 hour, and I'm going to add a password to that, so I can share that link with the user. They can check whether it's the right data we're looking at, and they can then choose to download it from that, sorry, to restore it from that link. So there are many options in terms of how to get your data back quickly and simply. So you can start to see there that in terms of it's a very material issue protecting against ransomware using the multitude of tools and strategies available to you as an industry. And what we're doing here is that we are focusing on one point, which is, as well as doing everything else that you have to do to recover from a ransomware attack, Keepit provides you with a tool where, in parallel to all of that, one of the first things you're going to do is start the process of getting your data back, to get your business back up and running as soon as possible and as simply as possible. And that's what we do, and that's why our customers love us for it. So I won't go into more of the demo of that because I can talk for hours about what else we do, but I'll share that. And if anyone wants to see that, then basically reach out to Jonathan, reach out to me, send us a question, send us an email after this, and we'll certainly help with that. We'll make that happen, and we can talk you through that system. So I'm going to stop sharing, if that's okay, Jonathan, and get back to the slides.
Okay. Thank you very much, Stuart. That is really useful, really helpful. I think the feedback that I've had from my clients that we've supplied Keepit to is just how easy it is, and the general consensus has just been, we love it. It's so simple. Recovery is as easy as it is possible for something to be. And when you get administrators who they've seen backup systems over years. They're used to the traditional Veeam backup exec, stuff like that, which have been around for years. And it's been a thought of mine that, sometimes the vendors sort of vie amongst each other to make a system more and more complex and unwieldy. And that's certainly been the case over the past 20 years. This is exactly the opposite. It's a breath of fresh air in that it is simple and it doesn't have to be complicated. It's as easy as it's possible to be. And the administrators who have had it from us love it for that. And when you double that with the fact that you don't have to worry about storing the data, providing disk space or whatever, it's just not an issue of whether or not you've got tapes or disk space to store your backups on, or deduplication. None of that is an issue. It's not. We don't have to worry about that as a backup. As a data professional who's responsible for the availability of your company's data, you don't have to worry about a lot of this now, and that's just such a breath of fresh air. It's removing the headaches that are associated with traditional backup and putting it fairly and squarely, down to when you need to get your company data back, you're under pressure. You don't want to be thinking about what version of the data you just want to get your data back up and restored. And this is the easiest process, the easiest method of getting it back without having to worry about finding tapes, getting them restored from or recovered from the data, the Iron Mountain or whoever stores your tapes. It's that's why companies are liking Keepit, and it's why other people are white labeling Keepit and reselling your services. I would suggest.
Yeah, Jonathan, I agree with all of that. That's certainly what we hear as well. I think it's also worth mentioning at this stage that in terms of our commercial model, not to get too in depth in this, but we do work in a different way, because obviously with the prevalence of cloud application and data, etc. these days, storage, of course, is an issue. Now we don't charge for storage. So Keepit's commercial model, we basically charge for active seats in any of your tenancies.
Yeah.
So we don't care how much data you bring to the party. So if you tell us that you've got petadata on petabytes of data on SharePoint, that's okay. We're not going to charge you more because of that. Our model is on active seats, and we don't charge for ingress and egress of data, data transmission. Which again, I think in this cloud world, or certainly moving, as you say, from the on-premise toward into cloud, that is a breath of fresh air for a lot of people, and it supports that ease and simplicity and speed that you're talking about with a very sensible, predictable commercial model. Because you can imagine a scenario. I mean, if you look at the way that all organizations are creating and manipulating data these days, it's going up exponentially, and that's pretty much across every industry, every sector. So if we're here in 2022 budgeting for a certain amount of data usage, and yet in 3 years' time that data could conceivably double, and that is plausible. No one wants to be the person having that conversation to the finance director or to the board or to whomever and say, do you know what, our costs have sort of gone up massively in the past 12-18 months, and it's just taken us by surprise. With the Keepit system, we've avoided that. That's, if your data doubles, we're not going to change our charging structure. If your organization is doing well and you add a further 10%, yeah, of course, we'll come back at the end of each year and talk about pricing and what do we do about that. And it's a trust-based, sensible conversation. It's a grown-up conversation, but that is a predictable and manageable conversation to have. And I think again that takes a lot of the worry and the anxiety away from our customers, who can then
Yeah.
just focus on the ease and the simplicity and the speed that you mentioned, Jonathan.
They don't have to worry about the backups anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, from the perspective of one of our clients, they bought a storage appliance from us not even 12 months ago. And that was sized for, with analysis that we did on their use case, from 1 to 3 years. Within 12 months, they've come back and they want to quadruple the size of the storage that
Wow.
is provided. Now that tells you, A, the storage has been very successful, but B, from the sizing that we did, they are growing a lot faster than what they predicted to be. So data is growing, and the ease factor is important. You know, you need to recover a lot more data quicker, and time spent recovering data tapes from offsite storage is wasted time. You need to be able to recover it cloud to cloud, which is what we're doing. The other point that I was going to raise was about how a lot of the vendors they do charge per terabyte, so they have capacity-based licensing, which is just a way of getting money out of their account and out of their client's account and into their account. So, you know, it seems pretty obvious that with the rate at which data is accelerating in size and the importance of data for companies these days, it's just a way of beating your clients up with a big stick, and that's kind of why we like to align ourselves with Keepit. I've not got any more questions from our audience today.
Okay.
But I'd like to thank everybody who's come along and joined in with us, and it's good to see Matt and Andy from Premier Harbour. It's good to see our friends from the colleges in Harrogate and Colchester. Yeah, excellent. Thanks for joining us. And Stuart, have you anything you'd like to just add before we close?
No, other than to say thank you once again, Jonathan, and everyone listening. By all means, reach out to us afterwards if you've got any questions. We're obviously very keen, and we stand ready to assist and to engage. One last thing that I didn't mention in terms of our service offering, our proposition, I suppose, is that we also have real people that look after our customers. So as well as having a really good support website, we do have a real support team and a customer success team who manage our customers. And that's part of the reason that you'll see those great scores in terms of customer feedback. So we're kind of very, even though we're cloud-based kit, we're a very sort of people-friendly organization. So very keen to engage. So look, Jonathan, I'll stop there. And thank you for setting this up. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Stuart. And thanks very much to everyone who's joined in. And we look forward to being in touch with you very soon. Jonathan from Esdebe saying thank you and goodbye.